Well, hello, everybody. I'm Ed Parcaut, and this is Helping the Brave. And my co host, Amy T. Meyer, is not here today. She'll be back eventually down the road. But let's get right into it. Let's bring in our guest today because I know you don't want to hear from me all the time. So let's bring you in. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Good. So, I don't want to mess this up today. Just it's one of those days. It's just so people. I mean, I started 8:30. 9 o'clock radio show, 11 o'clock somebody else's podcast, 1:30 my internet, and 2:30 mine, and now we're here at 3:30.
That's a
So
lot on
I've
your
been
plate, man.
a lot of talking. So I'm kind of, it's not so much I really enjoy it. It's just a lot of talking. So, and if I'm going to make mistakes, it's going to be on names. That's just who I am. And Abdi Guleed. I get it right? All
Yep,
right.
you hit it on now. Appreciate it.
All right. Appreciate it. All right. So we always ask, what service were you in and what was your job?
Yeah, so I was in the United States Army. I actually had two jobs. So I went in initially as commo, and then I ended up in the infantry. So we'll
Okay.
just we'll leave it there. So
All right.
commo and infantry.
Okay, so just so you know, we try to keep the acronyms out and everything because not only military people watch this, but
Okay,
regular people watch this. So if you're going to
got it.
talk about it, say, "Well, this is what that meant," just to explain, just so people
Yes,
understand.
definitely. So by commo, we mean we're using radios. For communications between your leadership and your troops on the ground, and it's used for various other things too. So when I say commo, it's just short for communications, electronic communications, to be more specific. In For the other job that I have, which is MOS, which stands for Military Occupation Service. So when we say our job, that's what we mean, or we
Right.
say MOS, that's what we mean. Then infantry is is
We
pretty
know it.
much.
Everybody knows the infantry
Okay,
is.
I'm just
Yeah.
making sure you never
You don't
know.
have to go that far into it, but I was just
Okay,
trying to help you because I'll like go explain it. It's not because I don't understand it. I want to
yeah,
make sure they understand it. That's the whole thing.
yeah. We forget that sometimes because we know it's veteran to veteran. We just go into our little jargon and the whole world gets lost. So
Right, but we
appreciate
want everybody to understand because sometimes people watch just to see what they should they go in, what they want to do, that kind of stuff, or people who just why they kind of they just want to know what's going on.
you. Makes sense.
So you were in communication, and you said you was that yeah. Like, so you could learn the communication, and then you set up communication for everybody, or what did you do overall?
Yeah.
So
So actually, I didn't complete it.
oh okay,
I'm okay. I'm okay with saying I kind of failed out of
that's
that
okay.
job. And so what ended up happening is they had a particular portion of training called TCP/IP. I was young. I wasn't really paying attention, and I failed it like I think it was like two or three times. You're supposed to fail it, and on the last one, they pretty much recycle you. They give you an
Mhm.
option to recycle, and I wasn't going through the school. I kind of realized it wasn't my thing, and so they gave me a couple of options. And I actually know, let me back it up a little bit. I actually reclassed to transportation first, so I actually have three MOSs, right? So I went to transportation.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with learning what you want to do.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that applies to everybody in college. Same thing. I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure we'll get to that. So I realized that I didn't want to do commo. It was like, okay, just wasn't my thing. It just didn't. It didn't. I didn't gravitate towards it really. So I ended up failing out of that. Got reclassed to transportation. I did that for a few years, and then I
Oh, I
kind of
thought you were going to
realized.
say you couldn't drive a stick shift, and so they
Oh
failed
no,
out
no,
of that.
no. No, luckily they didn't have stick shifts, so everything was automatic. See, they don't trust you that far. Like you got to be that was way above my pay grade. So
It's
you
got to
got to
be
be
a big unit to
right,
be a stick shift. Yeah.
right. They're not going to give that responsibility to everybody. So when I say transportation, I wasn't, they have something called an 88 mic, and they drive. They pretty much are the drivers. I was an 88 hotel. So what that is it's a cargo handler. So we're driving like uh, um, forklifts, basically a glorified up armored forklift
Yeah.
driver, right? Combat forklift driver, right?
So they have armor on the side of it, so it seems like it's tough. Is that what it is?
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. So it gives you the impression that we're doing something serious. I mean, but no, truly. I actually deployed in that MOS too. The first initial deployment I went in 2009
Where'd
was
you
a
go?
part of it. I went to Afghanistan on that one. Initially, we're supposed to go to Afghanistan. I mean to Iraq, but literally right when we landed in Kuwait, they're like, you know how the government is. No, actually, we need you over here. So we had to reload up, and then we packed up and went to Afghanistan. And I actually got to do my job there. But following once I came back, after that deployment, I kind of realized where my heart was. I was in Kandahar during the time, and it was a lot of heavy conflict during that time on the outside. So I was primarily on the base, but my heart was kind of more, I wanted to be outside the wire at that particular point. And that kind of just sold it for me. I love doing the cargo handler stuff. Any merchandise or anything that comes any equipment that comes into the country, we move it. And it was great. Like, we moved a lot of stuff. We got a lot of stuff, to where it was supposed to go. Like I said, my heart was more in the combat side of it. I did not know at that time, but I wanted to be outside the wire. So I got out. I got back from that deployment, and then kind of hovered around for probably about like 2 years. And at that time, I didn't know if I wanted to stay in or get out. And then I just had this itch that was like, no, don't get out, man. You got at least, you got to go see what the other side is about. And by the other side, what I mean is like the combat arms side. Mm-hmm. And so I talked to my leadership, and I'm like, hey, this is something that I want to do. I got like a year left before I'm supposed to get out. And basically they gave me the green light on that until I had to talk to the recruiter for the second time. And luckily he didn't lie to me this time. He was like, hey bud, we can do this, but unfortunately you're to be able to go to the school, you're going to have to wait, I think it was 2 years. So it wasn't like an instant reclass, meaning like they take you from the one job that you're in and they push you to another. I was going to have to wait 2 years. And at that time I was so done with transportation. So I literally had to sit out and wait it out and until I reclassed. And then the funny part about this story is that, so when you do transfer out of a job, you usually go to what's called AIT, which is advanced individual training. Mm-hmm. No. So what they ended up doing with me, luckily I had a buddy with me, right? And I love this dude today. His name is Alexander Spivey, right? And so what they did with us is that they didn't start us at the AIT phase of infantry. They started us at week 3. So week 3 is coming out. So you're coming out of red phase. Red phase is where, the drill sergeants they're yelling at you still. They're just giving it to you. They're really still trying to weed people out.
Abdi, let me explain to you. I was in the Navy. We didn't really have that boot camp.
Did you guys have a boot camp at all?
We do, but there's no real yelling. It's more of a hand holding. I'm just kidding. But when I was in, Army is a totally different world, just like Marine Corps. All right. It's a totally different boot camps, everything. So my son is in the Army. He would totally relate to what you're saying. But for me, I was, I went to boot camp, but I was on the drill side of boot camp. So basically what we did the last half of being in is just getting ready for drilling for the graduation. So I'm very lucky to not have to do what you just talking about.
Really? So there was no yelling at all when you first came in?
Well, no, when you first get in there, they do the trash cans and they do the bit of yelling. But I was at the point where I knew it was all a joke. Right.
Got it.
And then they put me in charge of not the C, but I was at the end where, to making sure people do stuff. And I had to go to a marching party a couple of times, which really was supposedly calisthenics, working out, doing sit-ups and push-ups until you can't do it anymore. Well, I learned that you can only beat yourself up. They can't touch you. So, when they're yelling at you to do more, if you just go, and you fall down, you can't do anything. It's the ones that are struggling.
It's daycare. In other words, it's daycare.
Yeah, if you're struggling and crying, then they pick on you even more.
So. Yeah, so that's definitely true, and I think that and it all depends on like your cycle and who you're, your
and what year you're in. Yeah,
right. And so it's for me. I went in looking for that. You know what I mean? So I encourage like anybody who's looking at going in, you got to know what you're looking for. I was looking for that. For that, for that yelling, I was looking for that hardcore push at the time. So I got
what the hell happened to you as a child?
Oh yeah, so I'm
just saying because normally
we're gonna do a little bit of psychotherapy.
No, I can tell you right now, anybody who goes in the military, they have something that happened in their childhood. That's just how that works.
No.
We don't run towards danger, and as a but that's why it's called brave. Right. If we didn't have any trauma in our childhood.
Yep, that's it. So, I mean, single mom, I was raised in Palo Alto, California.
Oh,
You
that's a horrible place to be raised, man.
yeah,
The
yeah.
Crips and the
Well,
Bloods there are so
oh
bad.
if they're out there, I haven't seen them, but they do have
I
a
know.
lot of,
I'm in
they
Modesto.
got,
You know where I'm at. So
yeah,
it's like,
man,
yeah.
yeah,
If you would have said Compton, I would have kind
well,
of, understood.
yeah.
But
No, no,
move
no,
on.
I don't think I would have made it that far if I was from there. But honestly, I grew up on like kind of both sides of the fence. So East Palo Alto, Palo Alto. I kind of grew up on both sides of the fence. My grandmother lived in East Palo Alto. My mom decided to move out of East Palo Alto when I was a kid and moved over to Palo Alto. So that's where I went to school with. A lot of diversity. It wasn't just one population of people. So, I'm very thankful for that. But, to answer your question, or, to go back on your question, yeah, definitely. I grew up a knucklehead. I got into a lot of fights when I was a kid. I went to a lot of different schools when I was a kid. I was, they said I had ADT when I was a kid. I think that that's kind of true a little bit, but I think it's a superpower if you know how to use it right.
Mhm.
So yeah, my trauma just came from, not being stable, not having a stable environment for a while. And then my stepfather came into my life. He just recently passed away too as well. He came into my life when I was about 12 years old. So he was in the army. He was a boxer. I know we're going to get into that too. One of the best, like this, if you see this guy shadow box and move, you would thought he was like a short Muhammad Ali, man. Very clean cut, woke up 5 o'clock in the morning every morning. I hated it. I didn't understand any of that stuff. So I was kind of prepped for that. So that was some structure for me from about 13 to about 17. They ended up having a kid, my little brother, Romello. So I was big brother to him. And I started to notice I had to, get my act together. I was in and out of school. I ended up dropping out of school when I was a junior. Actually never graduated from high school. And I don't encourage anybody else to do that. But what I will say, if that is your circumstances, you can always build yourself back up. I think it's not what you did in the past, it's what you do in the future and how you restructure that and how you use that as motivation to build your future, right?
Mhm.
But anyhow, so I never went back to school. However, what I did is high school. I mean, I enrolled myself into college. So I started going to Foothill College for a few years, bumped around, and
Did you get your
realized,
GED? Is that what
no,
you
I
did?
never got my. So this is a funny story.
What?
It was like, how did I get into the military? Well, I went to college, right? So I had about 2 or 3 semesters, and I was in something called concurrent enrollment. So when you're in concurrent enrollment, they count that, they can take that and translate that into basically a high school equivalency, right? So since I had a certain amount of credits, I was able to go into the military. And the reason why I initially chose to go into the military was that I knew that although I was doing good at the time, I started boxing. I used all of my stepfathers, him as an example to do some better things in my life. I was still susceptible to toxic environments. So I said, look, go to war, go to jail, right? So I was like, you know what? Let me put myself into an environment that can help me structure myself to where I will be around a lot of leaders. You know what I mean? And use them as example, right? So I had one, which is my stepfather, and a few others. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna, I have to give credit to them too as well. But
Mhm.
the military is where it was at. So that was my trauma. So I was like, okay, let me put myself into this system, and see what happened. And then from there, it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. So
All right, so let's go back to your next. So you were out. You were at the red. You were Red Week. Is that what you said?
oh, red phase, yeah,
Red
right,
Phase.
right, right.
Yeah.
So red phase. So and here's the funny thing about that. I already had a deployment, right? So they send me back to week 3, right? We're thinking we're gonna come in. So initially infantry OSUT, right? One stop unit training, I believe is the correct terminology for it. It's supposed to be about 12 weeks, right? So we were supposed to come in around 9 or 10. Nope. When we went to go to the in processing facility, they were like, either you can wait here for another 3 months or we can put you back in phase 3. And we're like, oh my God, are you serious? So Guess what we
Day
chose?
3. Yeah.
Right, we went back to day 3, and literally it was a shell shocker. And this time, so initially I did my basic training at Fort Jackson, which is in South Carolina. This time, good old Fort Benning, right? I think they changed the name to like Fort Moore or something. I know it's a different name now. And I just remember walking into the basically into the into the into your area that you're to where they have all the the soldiers at, right? Or the in processing soldiers at, and I'm getting yelled at, man. Like I got a deployment patch on, and as a matter of fact, one of the drill sergeants starts chewing me out, man. Like he thought I was like stolen valor or something like that, and he didn't know, so he just started chewing me out. And then he like stops mid sitting, is like, wait, are you guys prior service or something like that? And so he realized we're prior service, and then he kind of let us go. But they sent us all the way back to us, meaning the gentleman I went with, all the way back to week 3, and that was totally a shell shocker. So I had to do the whole entire AIT or OSET all over again.
Wow. Yeah, my son actually was weird because I went to Fort Sam Houston, Texas when I was in the Navy to go to specialty school. So that's AIT there, right? It's all military school. That's where my son went to get his training for medic. And so we ended up going back to San Antonio for his graduation. It was like, wow, I haven't been here in 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did it change a lot? Is it still the same? I've never been there before.
Yeah, they have I can't even talk, river walk that's down, it's like if we had the canal, the canals around here. Well, they have the same thing, but it's amazing what they have. And it's just, they have restaurants along it and hotels, and it's really nice. Yeah. You just got to go at the right time of the year because it's too much humidity.
Oh yeah. It's Texas, man.
Yeah.
That's Texas. It's not California, man. It's hot out there.
Yeah. And we're hot, but we're just not humid hot.
Yeah, but you have the choice to go in air conditioning. If you're one of those soldiers, you have no choice. You're out there. You're gonna have to suck it up, man.
Well, they just have those little coolers in your little rooms, and you're still sweating because it's so humid.
Yeah, those things don't work. Like as soon as it gets, it gets up there, it's like, no. The government's not going to spend all that money on you. You got to that's a part of your training, man.
Get you ready for the stand. Yeah.
Right. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right. So you went through all that training, and then you were infantry. And then what did you do after you got out of the training? Did you get deployed again?
Yeah. So what initially happened is I was going to shoot for Ranger Battalion. I really wanted to go into special operations at the time.
Dude, did you really want to be messed up the rest of your life?
You know what? I might as well go ahead and talk about that real quick now.
Because Ranger, but most people don't know, if you get through Ranger school, most of those guys are messed up.
Yeah, well, so Ranger
and I don't mean that wrong. Any Ranger who's amazing, please don't take this wrong. I'm not knocking what you're doing. I just know what I know about certain ones who have had issues on the other side. So
So real quick, so Ranger school, it's a school. Basically it's a training cycle that you go for. Ranger. So a lot of people don't know that Ranger Battalion is its own thing. So you have, I forget all the Ranger battalions. I've been out for a while, so I know they have 2nd, I think 3rd Ranger Battalion, something like that. So it's actually, its own thing. It's underneath special operations. And when you go to Ranger Battalion, they have something called, I think at the time when I was in, it was called RAS, Ranger Indoctrination Program, something like that. And this thing, it's almost like its own version of selection. It is a selection. It's a selection process to see if you have what it takes to get into the actual unit, the actual units. And they weed people out. So what a lot of people think basic training is when they go in, kind of like your experience, that's what RASP actually is. That's what I think it's called now, RASP. So that selects you to be able to go into the unit. Once you're in the unit, in order for you to have leadership, to be in a leadership position, you can't be a leader like a sergeant until you've been to Ranger school. So that's like a qualification thing. But that was the thing about the Rangers that I really liked. They had a very structured way, a very hierarchical structure to how they how they develop their soldiers. And that was something I was really attracted to. Another thing too is that when you're in the infantry for a while, you hear a lot of stuff about Delta Force and stuff like that, and a lot of people don't know to make it to Delta Force or anything like that, you have to go through Ranger not have to, but they select a lot of their people from Ranger Battalion. so that attracted me. So initially I wanted to do that. But my buddy that I went to infantry training with was like, nah, man, I'm going to Germany. I was like, oh, I've never been to Germany. Okay. I've never, outside of Afghanistan at the time, I had never been to Europe or anything. We went through Europe, but I never actually lived there. So I changed my mind. Like, let me go ahead and give this Germany thing a try. So we both got stationed in Vilseck, Germany, which is kind of close to what's the Czech Republic, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of in the border of Czech Republic and Austria. So I got stationed there in 2013, and I remember the first day I was there. That was my first time being in an infantry unit, right? And I'm coming from support, and I love my support people out there. I don't separate them from anybody else, but when I came from the support side, they didn't really yell at you. You never got smoked, which is corrective training. That didn't really happen that much. Literally my first day there, they told me I was going to the field for 30 days, right? So mind you, I'm a California boy. I was in Virginia for a while, and we ended up going to the field for 30 days. And like on the outside, I'm not crying, but inside, I'm like, okay, this is going to suck. Literally, they had us go out to the field, and I remember we just got there. We had to acclimate, and it's freezing. So this is like December, January timeframe. So it's cold. I literally go to sleep, right? So they tell everybody to bed down, right? And we're gonna start training in the morning. I wake up, and I literally unzip my sleeping bag, and piles of snow just starts falling. I'm thinking I'm seeing the white light or something like that. First time I remember snow just falls in all under my face. And I'm like, welcome to Germany. That was my welcome to Germany. First time I ever seen it snow and had any experience of snow like that. So that was very interesting. So we knock out the 30 days of training. We get back and we had a little bit of downtime, and then we got orders saying that we will be deploying to Afghanistan roughly like 6 months later. So instantly we went back up into a train up phase. We started training for Afghanistan. And some of the intel that we got at the time was a little disturbing because the units that we were going to be replacing suffered a lot of casualties. They had, they got sent through the ringer. So it kind of, and here's the thing, getting that information, I don't care who you are, you can be the toughest guy in the world. It's gonna mess with you. You know what I mean? It's gonna sit on your head. But the thing that makes it different is that that suffering or that pain is kind of distributed amongst all of your buddies to your left and your right. So it's, if you had to endure that individually and you knew you were walking into a situation that was that could be potentially catastrophic, it's going to be hard. But when you got a whole group of people with you suffering that same, going through that, getting ready to do the same thing as you, it's different. So it's more distributed. But I can tell everybody's like, oh man, this is going to be like, you're really going to be in the ringer on this one. So we train up, we get ready to deploy. So we deploy, we get into country. I think we came into RC West, right, which is in Afghanistan. They separate from RC East, RC West. So it's kind of like near Kandahar. I think we're in Pasab. It's like 10 years ago. So, I kind of forgot all that stuff. And we get another briefing, right? So now we're getting more detail of what we're going to be doing. The area that we were supposed to be going in was a Manis Panjwai area. And there were many units that were going out there. And the intel on that place was bad. Like, it was just, we're walking into pretty much a massive conflict. And since there was no U.S. forces in that area for a while, it definitely expect a lot of casualties and stuff like that. Luckily, we had some of our leadership had just came from there a couple years prior, so they knew the AO, they knew what to expect out there. So that was a little bit relieving. And then luckily, what ends up happening is that they wave it off. They're like, you know what, we're not actually gonna go into that area. What we want you guys to do is to go do QRF, which is quick release force. Basically, if anybody gets into any conflict within Kandahar. We were the only infantry unit there at the time. We would be the people that respond to those situations. So if somebody got jammed up or whatever, we start doing that. And then we'll also be doing what's called route clearance. Route clearances, we would go out with the engineers, the EOD, and we would basically be their their support while they're combing the roads. They have the big mine rollers that pretty much detect roadside bombs before it gets to a vital area of the the vehicle to blow it up. So we did that, and so that was our main mission. So we're doing that back and forth. We found a few. I found a few IEDs before they found us. Luckily. Yeah, luckily. But again, like when you first there and that's what you're doing the first time, you're terrified. Like I don't care who you are. Like at least I was too, for sure. I'm not gonna front on that. But as you're there for a while, you get acclimated to the environment, and it just becomes a day to day. And so we ended up doing that for about 3 or 4 months, and they shifted us to a different location to build up what's called a COP, which is like a small outpost. Basically, it's a combat outpost, right? And so during those 2 weeks was probably the worst part of the deployment. Basically, they sent us to the area I just mentioned, Panjwai. So I remember just rolling up into this country, into that part of the country. And what was different about it when we came in there was that usually the civilians that are there, they don't pay you any attention. They don't care about you because they see U.S. troops all the time. But what was different about this place is that when they first saw us, like the body language was completely different. The little kids, I used to always watch the little kids. The little kids would, if something's about to happen, man, you gotta look. The kids will kind of tell you. You'll kind of know in their body language. But with these kids, it was different. They didn't really want to make eye contact. They were running around buildings, and I seen a couple of. I remember seeing one mother. One kid was standing in the doorway. She just snatched him back, and I'm like, okay, this is odd. So we were there, maybe about an hour, and then our leadership came over the comms communications, right? The communication devices, the same thing. I went, I left.
We got comms good, okay.
Right. So that's what it's used for in theater, right? And it was like, hey, like we had air guards basically. We were in strikers. Let me mention that we were a striker battalion. So strikers are kind of like how can I say it? They're like basically tanks without the without the muzzle, like no, basically up armored, not MRAPs or anything like that. They're kind of like that too, but they're all terrain. They can go through all types of different terrain and stuff like that. And so it comes over the radio, hey, get your guys out of the air hatch. So we get our guys out of the air hatch. Literally about 5 minutes later, all you hear is ping, 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 like ping, 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 and we look, come. Us just look at each other like, okay, like, are we getting shot at or something like that? It's like, and then it was confirmed we were getting shot at. And next thing I know, we drive off the side of the road, and we kind of at that same time we pulled up to the COP, right? It was barely even built up at the time, and we drive straight into it, and next thing I know, they're trying to rain mortars on us. They're shooting at us, and then a couple of our guys get out. So at the time I was a sergeant, so I delegate authority at that time. So I sent a couple of my guys up to the top to return fire with some of the Charlies that we had. Charlies are mortarmen. They're infantrymen too, but they're pretty much laying down fire from a certain amount of distance. And we just started laying down mortars and started laying down heavy weapons on them. And I think we a couple of confirmed kills on that one. And that was our introduction to that area, and it lasted about 2 weeks. So that particular part of the deployment was completely different. All the other parts were kind of quiet, but that's when things started kind of ramping up.
So of all the people I've had on Interagent over the last few years, you're the one that's fully talked about their full service. And that's not good or bad. I'm just saying. So it's probably because it's, only 10 years ago. Right. And so you remember every part of it. From that service that because I know you've been going to school and
Yes,
and I know some other stuff which I'm not going to bring up, but you can. What so after that, when did you get out after that Afghanistan thing?
Yeah, so I came back. I'll be honest, like I'm very like I don't like to say vulnerable. I say transparent about it because that's a part of understanding what you've been through. So roughly about 2 years after that. So once I got out, I was done. Like I was like, you know what? I didn't have a kid. You know what I mean? I had no legacy to leave behind. So I was like, uh, all the special forces and special operations stuff that I wanted to do, I was like, nah, I don't want to do that no more. Like, so I ended up just getting out. So this was about 2015, but I didn't fully get out. So what I did is I just transferred to the National Guard out in Dublin, California.
Mhm.
And so I did that for about 3 years until from 2015 to 2018. So that's when I was completely done.
Now, when you were in, did you get injured while you were in? Did you take any?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Luckily, no, like complete
No.
physical injuries or anything
Yeah.
like that. Other things, that I kind of went through. Just the realization of what you've been through and
And what you've seen and
stuff
all
like
that other.
that. Like, and when you say injuries, like
I'm talking you.
overtraining and then stuff like that, like just shoulder issues, back issues, stuff like that. But a lot of those things are manageable. It's some of the unseen things that weren't so manageable for a while until you learn how to get a grip on them. So,
Right. So
um,
what you're saying is you dealt with PTSD to a certain point.
oh yeah, for sure. So and it was interesting how it all came about. Like PTSD is like one of those things that it's relative. It's not like a lot of people think it's just one thing. Like there are the traumatic events that do happen to you, but prior to me going, the reason why I didn't get injured in that kind of PTSD manner is because I have a strong moral philosophy. You know, anything that I had to do, I understood why I would have to do those things. And for a lot of people, that's not the case. So if they have to do something that doesn't fit with their belief system, that's where the real tragedies come about. I didn't really suffer that. My thing was is that I lost a lot of friends, not just during, like I lost friends during the war and also lost friends after. That's what kind of hit me. And just doing something at the height like that, doing something is, you know, going overseas to fight a war, like that was just like I could have died. Like, and I had a brother, I have a brother at the time, he was a kid, and all those things just kind of started haunting me and um, you know, and just seeing some of the things that I saw, you see, you get accustomed to seeing dead bodies. So that was a little different for me. So I had to kind of process that. I had to confront, you know, death in that way. You know what I mean? And that's hard for a lot of people. So, and I think what I suffered is not so much just unique to the military. I think a lot of people suffer that. I think kids in the projects have to suffer certain
Mhm.
things like that. So I just don't think that they have a great outlet to fix those problems. So yeah, those were the type of injuries that I did sustain, but the mission doesn't stop. So
Right. Well, what I find from doing this show is for most people go in the military, you have struggles from your childhood, which is some PTSD. The military just exacerbates from what you see and builds on what you already have that you haven't dealt with from your childhood. And until you deal with all that, which you're lucky you've dealt with it, because I know a lot of 50-year-olds and other who's went through 3 divorces, ruined every one of their relationships, and
right.
finally got help.
I did that. I did that. Yeah. Yeah.
But you're not, yeah, but
Yeah.
you're younger, I think, right? I don't know your
I'm
age.
40. I'm 40. I mean,
Okay.
I'll take it though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I'll take
Did you know any languages before you went in at all besides
No, no,
English?
no,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. I
Okay.
know American. That's it. Like it's a thing. It's a thing.
Right. No, I just didn't know. I mean, because sometimes people get pulled in certain directions because they know other languages.
No, no, no. No other languages.
All right. So you dealt with that finally,
Mhm.
and your work. I mean, you still work on it, but
Yep.
and now I know you're going to school. You have your bachelor's. You're working on your master's, right?
Sorry. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, just a little bit about that. So I got back 2015, started going to school. I was in the National Guard, so um I was able to do both. And I just, I was kind of done with the military at the time. And so I just hit school hard. And also one thing to mention too that helped out with my therapy is I haven't had a chance to mention this, is that I've always been into martial arts my whole entire life. Again, my stepfather was a hell of a boxer. So I actually started coaching in Germany, and that's where kind of, I got bit by the coaching bug. So, I was still fighting and stuff like that.
Coaching martial arts or coaching in general?
Oh, I'm sorry, coaching boxing, just coaching in
Oh,
general.
boxing.
Because look, it's while I was in, I'm a sergeant, and I realized, what that title meant. You know what I mean? Maybe not at the time. Looking back, like I realized what that title was as being a sergeant was, and I don't think I fully realized it at that time, and maximized that position, and I kind of found the same thing in coaching, and helping other people develop themselves, especially in the sport of boxing. So I really started to develop a passion for that. And initially, I went to school for kinesiology, but then I realized that a lot of coaches, personal trainers, don't really know too much about business. So I went back to study business, so I would be able to eventually one day open up my own gym, and also possibly do like a management company to manage fighters. And all those things are still things that I'm aiming at right now. So I started doing that. So I switched to business, and I finished my bachelor's probably about two months ago. So it took me like 6 years to finish my bachelor's, but I did it.
You did it. Who cares?
Yeah, it took, yeah. And I finished it at the University of Pacific. Luckily, they let me in, and because remember, I was academically
Right.
challenged, right?
Well, not only that, you're
yeah.
probably the first person who has his bachelor's who didn't get a high school degree.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, you pointed
Or
that out.
at least a GED. Yeah.
We might have to edit that part out. I don't know if that's a rule there or not.
It's all too late. It's too late. Here's your diploma.
They know because I was, like I said, I was in concurrent enrollment, but like I appreciate you actually saying that, because I don't use that as a badge of honor. I'm not gonna sit up here and say I use that as a badge of honor. What I'm saying is it happens. Sometimes people can't finish high school. It's not about that. It's about, okay, well, I didn't finish high school. What does that mean? You got to define yourself in that situation, right? So to some of the kids that I meet, I'd be like, hey, I know you didn't graduate high school. I wish you would go back to do that. But if you don't, man, take your butt to college, right? Because that's going to give you real translatable skills, especially if you're, over 18. But I mean, if you can get it.
Or go to trade school. I mean, right now, dude, there's 650,000 openings for trades in the United States.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. No, yeah. I think trades is where it's at. Like,
forget college, please. That's go get in the trades. There was an episode, I forget, was it of one of those adult cartoons, and they were talking about all the trades. So the South Park, I think it was, and all the trades are multi-millionaires. I think we talked about this maybe. And
yeah, I think we did. I think we did.
People went to college, are paying them, and they're living in the smaller houses and all the because no one can do it. So they're the only ones. So they charge an arm and a leg. That's how trades are, because everybody in there, most of the people in trades are in their early 50s, and they're getting ready to retire in the next 10 years. And so if they haven't already,
they have to fill those positions. And, just to double back and piggyback on that, even going to, I went to the University of Pacific, and I love the school. It's a great school. However, the trades are going to teach you something that the military teaches you, right? How to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? And you're going to learn something that's practical. Most people think the trades are just with their hands. That's not the case. There's a lot of intellectual rigor that goes into being an electrician, into let's take something like project management. That applies to construction work too, architecture, all those things like that. So, I'll put it to you like this: even though that I am pursuing my MBA, right, I still, in the back of my mind, want to go get a trade, right, just for the apprenticeship. For the craftsmanship of it all, because that's at the core. That's what it really is about. It's about being very disciplined in one area, and really knowing that area in and out. And that's what universities across the board used to be. But unless you're going to school to be a lawyer, those professional degrees still have that rigor, but if you're going to school for like an arts degree, those are more hobbies,
Yeah,
I think we were talking like I think I wanted to go to school for philosophy, but I went to the mall and couldn't find a store that had anything to do with philosophy. So I was like,
all right, they weren't selling anything with philosophy.
No. except for Barnes and Nobles, but no, I don't think that's an ideal profession. So
from just talking to you, just especially today, what I hear is that your passion is boxing and helping people and helping kids, like you were helped when you were in from your stepdad. And I think that's kind of what I'm hearing. I could be totally wrong, but that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, no. Thank you for pointing that out. That's correct. That's exactly it. And just being, the thing is being an example. And if that's the route that I had to go, that's the route that I had to go. I think that we, especially as younger folks, do need examples. Sometimes, like, I even know people my age who are examples to me, or even younger than me. It's just having an example, and I want to be that. And the other thing about boxing is that I was really, really, really good at it, like really good at it. You know what I mean? Not to toot my own horn. There's a lot of things I'm terrible at. There's a long list of things that I'm terrible at. But when it came to understanding not just boxing itself, me executing boxing, but also teaching it, the process of how people learn and figuring out how they learn, and not just giving them one cookie cutter approach. It's I approach it as a system, but it's also individualized. I got to see who you are. And, that's one great thing about personal trainers is they can tailor the training to the individual too as well. But yeah, man, it's just the development process, watching people come in and not knowing how to throw a right hand or, a cross or a hook or anything like that. And just helping them go through that learning process. It's almost like a validation thing. Like it is for them too, but it's also, like it's also for me too as well. Like, to see that those things actually work and they benefit and help people out. So it's not about just helping people. It is about that too as well. Both of it come out with a win. You know what I mean? So I think it's also it's a more of a win-win thing if you're doing it generally, and you want to see the other person develop. It shows you that that you're on the right path too as well. So and there's a lot of humility in that too.
All right, so I have a question for you. We've been going about 40 some minutes.
Really already.
Yeah, it goes fast, doesn't it? Especially when yes, I tell people just a lot of people get nervous. Like that's no big deal. It's just a podcast. What from the military did you give up? And what I mean by that is the first thing I gave up was the 1400, 1300, that kind of stuff.
The third, you said the
clock. I went back to the civilian time. I would do 3:00 in the afternoon instead of 1500. First thing I did when I got out was I gave the clock up, the military clock.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. That's a good one. I haven't thought about that. I think I gave up maybe. You got me with this one, man.
So you still do everything that you did in the military? Come on.
No, I don't stand at parade rest with my hands behind my back, so I gave that up. Like, no,
but Army is different.
I don't stand in formation anymore, man. I gave that up, man. I can't stand in formations anymore. Yeah. That's what
I didn't realize is how much you guys still do that after boot camp.
Oh, it's terrible.
I heard my son. I gotta go in for my what? I didn't do that.
Yeah,
I was in the Navy. That was the only boot camp. We got out. The next time we did it was once every year, maybe for some address. That was it.
Man, that sounds like a sweet deal, man.
It is. It is. Yeah. But the difference is I didn't make rank as fast as you guys do.
Oh, yeah. Navy is difficult. Yeah.
You guys. He made E5 in almost 4 years.
Right.
And he didn't. He could have, but he's like, my reenlistment's $40,000 as an E4. It's 10 as an E5.
Navy and the Marines is difficult, man. You got to do a lot to.
No, people have to get out. They don't get out.
That's it.
You guys are the largest force the Army is. And so you have a lot of transition to where you guys can move up. We don't in one way or another, but for that, you got to get in formation. We do not. So that's okay.
Well, that's why we have a lot of guys come in, a lot of people come from all branches. I can't tell you how many of my leadership was Marines, Navy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was crazy.
I had the opposite when I was in boot camp. The guy he was older than all of us. He was in his probably late 20s, early 30s, and he was a Army guy.
In the Navy?
Yeah, he went in the Navy. Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
He had part of his ear missing, but that's beside the point. That's all I remember.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's the first time I ever heard that. I didn't.
That's okay. People make those changes. It happens.
Change is good, man. Change
Yeah.
is good.
Whatever works for you, man. But I'm glad that you because you said you ruined some of your relationships. I'm glad that you're working on that because it's important to,
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I patched them up, and I think they understood, they understood that I was going through and going through a hard transition where I think a lot of people come because it's the environment. Like it's, you're coming from a very purpose driven environment.
Mhm.
Like values are highly regarded in the military. And that's something I haven't seen anywhere else. Kind of like I'm doing the jujitsu thing and I see parts of it too, but it's in that environment too as well. But coming out of the military, it was just its own thing. Like it's to recreate that, and I love law enforcement, that's a different thing too as well. But it's just the purpose driven environment, seeing those examples in real time. So
I'd agree, but you're right. You need to find your purpose. And that's one of the reasons we're doing that Operation Firewalk that's coming up.
nice.
And our phrase is, it's Operation Firewalk. You can go sign up now. We're trying to reignite your purpose.
Yeah, and let me know. You told me
I
about
just
that.
did Operation
Yeah.
Firewalk. What do you need me to do?
Yeah,
Type it
no,
up for you. Give me your phone. Let me put it in there.
Man. Post the link.
Operation Firewalk.
First in line on that one. Okay.
OperationFirewalk.com. It's not that difficult.
Can I wear socks?
Nope, because they'll catch on fire. Why do you want to wear socks?
I want to burn my feet, man. I'm trying to be a foot model.
If you don't want to burn your feet, then don't wear socks.
No.
Yeah.
No, but that defeats the purpose though. But I definitely look forward to definitely happening.
So it's the veteran. If you have your spouse can do it at the same time also. So
nice.
So it's food, it's dinner. It's a bunch of people coming in and talking about what they've been through, and then the walk is at 7:30. That's when we start, and we should be finished with everybody by 8. And then you go back in, talk a little bit more, and go home. But it's a dinner. It's everything. If you're local, we'd like you to be on Friday. If you're not local, we'd prefer you to be on Saturday. Give you more time with travel and everything. So
nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And things like that too. So
yeah. Well, dude, you're in if you want to help, because I know you have a lot of free time. Just kidding. We know. We always need help. It's right now. It's my Rotary, and it's Ralph and myself.
You're a busy dude, though, man. I'm surprised, man. You
want something done? Find a busy person.
Yeah, there it is. Drinking through a fire hydrant, man, but you handle it well.
All right. Thank you for coming on the Helping the Brave today. Really appreciate it, dude. Thanks for telling your story. I know it's not easy for everybody to tell your story, but we need to tell these stories so people understand what we've been through, and other vets can understand what we've been through. So again, thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on too as well.
My pleasure, man. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here, and we'll talk to you next week.